Hello, beautiful people, and I hope you're having a better day than I am. Um, welcome back to another episode of the USL show. Um, I'm just going to let y'all know, hi, if you don't know me, Kaylor Hodges. I won't be talking as much, and for many of you, you have for the first time in forever have continued listening to an episode within 30 seconds. So thank you. I won't be talking as much today. I got positive diagnosis of COVID, so I'm just going to be doing a lot of the in-betweeny bits and then hopping backstage and just watching along. But I want to go ahead before we go too far. I want to put something on screen real fast. Say hello to the USL show kit. And if you are a podcast person only, go to the YouTube real fast, go to the live stream, check it out, because these kits will be releasing on later on this week. We got some help with Corbin Williams, who's in our Discord. We sent over to Olive in York, and we are partnered with the Protagonist podcast family, so that is on there. And 100% of the proceeds will be going to the Carter Payne Foundation with South Georgia Tormenta FC. If you want more information on that, it's in honor of Carter Payne, who passed away last year. And they're just really just trying to make soccer more affordable, and it's fantastic. So check out the kits whenever those officially go live, which I think should be in a couple of days. We'll let y'all know. And that's enough talking from me because I feel like I'm going to die. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm doing well today. Sorry to hear that you're not fully up to kind of speed right now, but I hope you're feeling better, Kaylor. But yeah, been an eventful week of USL, and apparently a secret USL League 2 game that has been kept from us as an underground USL that big USL is keeping from the masses.
Not only a secret League 2 match, but a lot of people from California learning about a city that they didn't know existed. So that was a really cool moment for all of the world, really. Alan.
What's up? I didn't float away this weekend. We had a pretty fun weekend with the New Mexico San Diego game. I got to sit next to their coach, which was highly entertaining because he was on a red card. Apparently the USL 2 game that no one saw was actually broadcast on ESPN Plus, but the feed was broken. So sorry we didn't get to watch it. But things are going all right, and in the Wild Western USL Conference.
I mean, I think it's hilarious that there was somebody doing a League 2 match a couple weeks after League 2 had their championships. Like, what a time to try to get away with it.
I feel like at that point you should just advertise for just any league. Just say there will be a Premier League match shown at this venue, and then like while the match is going on, you just have the Liverpool-Chelsea replay being shown on a Jumbotron or on someone's phone so that you're technically showing the match there.
I mean, I play in a Sunday league called La Liga, and so if I told them, hey, there's a La Liga match going on in Birmingham on Sunday, it's not a lie.
I mean, wasn't a Birmingham player telling when Miami was visiting town saying that we're playing against Messi's team?
That is true. Yeah, there was a guy that bought tickets for the Miami FC, and he was like, will there be enough tickets? And we're like, oh, baby, will there be enough tickets? Let's go on. Some of the most underrated news that got caught early by our friends at Walkin' 90 Um, was this news of Cassini for Tormenta was being released, and this is kind of a big deal because he was a guy that played a lot of games early on, wasn't scoring a whole lot, and then he comes back from injury and gets, like, I think it was 5 goals in 6 games, or a little bit more than that even. It might have been like 6 and 7. I'm getting the numbers a little bit confused off the top of my head. But he comes back and just has a massive scoring run. Even scores against us Central Valley Fuego, and suddenly was not on the team sheet. Post on Instagram that, hey, thanks Tormenta fans, it's been a real one, basically. And Tormenta confirms today, which is bizarre. Makes you wonder if there was something going on behind the scenes, or maybe he's getting an opportunity to go to a different club. But also, Tormenta never misses out on a chance to get a transfer fee.
Yeah, I mean, this was certainly odd. You have a player who made 14 appearances for Tormenta this year, 5 goals in the year, or tied for the third highest goal scored for Tormenta. But yeah, like Kaylor had said, it's always around this time of year you see some of these weird transfer dealings of players who are leaving clubs to go get other opportunities, or sometimes they just have a break, and this is like a natural point to kind of end a playing career. But yeah, we'll be curious where Cassini kind of ends up. What's your take on this, Alan?
I mean, I know that USL has a history of transparency and in transactions, and so this just confirms again that we don't really know what's going on behind the scenes when it comes to player acquisitions and releases and such. Mutually parted ways leads me to believe that there was an opportunity maybe presented, and Tormenta tried to work something out, and maybe they just weren't successful in getting something out of wherever he was going, and so they just decided to cancel the contract, which does happen less and less these days. It seems more and more teams are willing to put in a little bit of money or work out some sort of swap deal, but this does seem to happen from time to time in USL, where guys just decide to cancel their contracts because a different opportunity presents itself. So until something comes out otherwise, I'm going to believe that he's going to be afforded an opportunity to play somewhere else. But I mean, I've seen this even in San Diego, where just a player just kind of quietly disappears and no one really knows why. And so hopefully everything's on the up and up. Both the players doing well. He hasn't done something stupid. So short of new news, I'll just say I hope for the best.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is a player who's made 40 appearances across Madison and Tormenta and has had stints in Brazil, Portugal, and Bulgaria in his career. So it'll be interesting to see kind of where he ends up, especially at only 27. It seems like a really early time to kind of be retiring or kind of ending your career. So it may very well be another opportunity ahead.
So moving on there is some other just kind of news. One of the big ones that came out was Zico Bailey going over to New Mexico. And, Zico Bailey is no slouch of a player, obviously. I mean, he was a key part of kind of who San Antonio were. At least that's the way it felt like to me. This is a guy who didn't get a whole lot of run this year. I had, I think, 11 starts this year, and didn't necessarily fall out of favor. I don't think that's completely fair, but it hasn't started or even appeared since the Sacramento game and from there just wasn't really a part of the team. And it seemed like New Mexico saw it as an opportunity to bolster a back line. And if you're not a San Antonio fan, you probably remember them not having enough players, like, at all. and now suddenly they can afford to lose defensive help, and it feels like a question mark, but also San Antonio always seem to know what they're doing, so, like, I'm not gonna question it, but also good pickup for New Mexico.
Getting a chance to see New Mexico in person this past weekend, it's clear that they're heading in the right direction. They are maybe a player, maybe a couple fractions of an inch away from some of their plays, and they're just looking maybe to refresh, right? They're kind of on the outside looking in as far as the playoff race is concerned, but they have some significant games in hand over RGV, Colorado Springs. And so they're right there. And so maybe they're just after 3 losses and a really competitive draw, maybe they're just looking for some options to rotate some players through to give them a slightly different look and to get them into the playoffs. So I think this is a pretty good pickup for New Mexico, who, again, does look better than their 29 points say that they are. I mean, they took a bunch of losses. Their goal differential isn't the greatest, but I think that they're heading in a good direction to try and fight for, that one of the last playoff spots. And so it's a good pickup for them.
Yeah, and you're bringing in a player who obviously is experienced with one of the best teams within USL and was a member of that 2022 championship San Antonio team, which I had considered among to be my best ever USL teams in the league history. And to kind of bring in that, I would say just that experience of knowing that success at a high level is incredibly valuable. And especially when you bring in Ezekiel Bailey, who's had success with FC Cincinnati as well, it's important to kind of have that experience within your locker room. And like you had mentioned, Alan, you have a New Mexico team who's only 3 points behind Phoenix and El Paso in the standings. And especially given how El Paso has been just dropping like a stone in the last few weeks, there is a chance to kind of move into the playoff spots if they can win that match in hand and just kind of be right in the thick of that battle for 7th and 8th in the Western Conference.
Moving on, I was going to do this in a different order, but I kind of changed my mind because I feel like this other one could lead to a different conversation. I want to go ahead and go to Orange County because this seems like it could have the bigger implications. And by all accounts, it seems true, but rumors are rumors until something happens, but Orange County has Osadina. It seems like he is being transferred over to Feyenoord. 19-year-old has 4 goals this year. Is everybody who's seen him knows that he is a super talented player who is going to be a real deal U.S. men's national team star. And, for the USL, it's good to get players going over to places like Feyenoord, not only because this is an opportunity to get a player in the USL, but also a team like Feyenoord, like Winder to Benfica, and whatnot. These are also seen as quote unquote stepping stone clubs in the US or in the European landscape. So maybe there's a chance for someone in Europe for him to take that next stepping stone, and maybe Feyenoord sees him as not a Feyenoord player, but someone who can be bought to be sold later too, which would be massive for the brand of the USL.
Yeah, the way Orange County does business, this seems legit, right? This seems like something that fits their personality, fits their style of player development. Sign them young, develop them up, sell them on when they're ready to be sold on. I don't want to say to the detriment of the club. I mean, they have a championship. They looked very good that year with kind of similar setup. I know we're going to talk a little bit more about Orange County in depth as a team, but I think there's some similarities between, this club and when they won their championship, where they have a bunch of talent that I think is ready to move to the next level. And it's just when those opportunities present themselves and when Orange County wants to move them on, you can make the case for Milan Olaski ready to make another step forward. They just have some really nice players that I think have been given an opportunity to develop over a couple years and really kind of highlight their ability to play well, score goals. They're incredibly quick. They absorb pressure really well and then pounce and attack, they've looked really great. And so of course they have European eyes on them because they're willing to move guys on. They're willing to sign young guys and develop them, and have done a pretty good job of that by all accounts. So this one seems like legit. The timing seems kind of questionable for a run for that team, but I think that he is maybe not an important cog in their team. He's a guy who can come on late. He's a super sub kind of player right now for the team. So maybe you're not going to see a huge impact like a guy like Milanowski leaving would. And so I just, congratulations to OC for doing it yet again.
Yeah, I mean, this is an Orange County team who has partnership with clubs like Rangers and in Feyenoord overseas. So like all the rumors and everything just really kind of check out and make sense with this. I'll be curious if, and this goes back to USL transfer fees not always being the most transparent, but on the fee that they receive for this deal, because like Transfer Market has it currently down as a 200,000 euro deal, which would be massive for a club like Orange County. But like you had mentioned, it's a club that knows how to develop their talent and sell them on towards Europe. And honestly, every club should be looking towards an Orange County style situation where you partner with a big team in Europe, like a Rangers, like a Feyenoord, who, by the way, is like won their first Eredivisie title in many years. And the Eredivisie has become a really big hotbed talent league for U.S. men's players going over there, such as Ricardo Pepi with PSV Eindhoven. So like to see this from Orange County is just another testament to their success and how the league should be kind of propping up this deal and showing other clubs that, hey, you need to start kind of developing your players and try and find these partnerships to move on and these players towards Europe. So while it's a loss to lose a player like this, I think that it's one of those opportunities where you really can't pass this up. And especially with the transfer window in Europe closing on September 1st, it's just, this is one of those kind of once in a lifetime moves that you just have to cash in on.
The last conversation I wanted to have about transfer news is this move of Preston from Las Vegas to Birmingham. And, we could talk about the Birmingham side of it. I've discussed it before. Basically, I don't think it makes a lot of sense on the Birmingham side. He's a good player, but we have a lot of players who do the same exact thing as him. I'm more interested in the Las Vegas side of this because if I'm a Las Vegas fan, you have taken away, and I don't want to be too rude to Las Vegas here, but I'm going to be a little rude to Las Vegas here. You've taken away the most exciting player on the team, and you have been left with now your most exciting player being Andrew Carlton. Take whatever you want about off the field, whatever. Like, take it or leave it. If you are truly speaking only on the pitch, if your most exciting player is Andrew Carlton, and I guess, the move itself is one thing to talk about, but considering this was labeled as a transfer by Las Vegas means there was some kind of fee paid, whether it's just a payment of, just whatever left was in contract, whatever, we'll probably never know. Does this feel like Las Vegas is fully giving up and their pipe dream of going to MLS, being bought by MLS and whatnot is done? And at the very least, dropping out of the championship and maybe into a lower division? Or do you think they're going to hold on for another year? Because, you have fully punted on a season that you came into the season fully punting on. And the only reason that people were going to come to your games for the soccer, you just sold.
Yeah, I think this is just a really tough situation for Las Vegas, and especially when you transfer out players like Preston from just an absolute bottom level team this season with Las Vegas. I mean, just one win at home all year. They already cannot finish first in the Western Conference, and they've completely he just kind of lost the plot of even making the playoffs. You want to give these players an opportunity to at least compete, but yeah, you really have to wonder what the long-term plan is for Las Vegas, whether this is trying to make things work again with just being an independent, trying to find some type of affiliation or just some sort of strategy to make it work, just because it doesn't seem like there's a plan or a process in place. Like, for all the difficulties that Hartford has had this year, we can at least confidently say they're still going to be kind of going at it again next season. And Las Vegas, for like the last 3 years, have just been teetering on, are they even going to be playing in their next season?
Yeah, I echo those concerns. I think the LAFC deal kind of propped them up, made it an interesting team with some young talent. Danny Crisostomo, Danny Trejo, guys like that where they're fun to watch. Maybe not the most competitive team, but they were still pretty competitive, and they had some talent on that team. But it's been like Miami Marlins of old, where they kind of fire sell everybody out of there, and then what are you left with? They sell entertainment, they sell a vibe around the stadium, which maybe brings people in. You might have somebody traveling into Vegas for an away game to watch their team play on the road. It is unfortunate, and I think it boils down to just kind of ownership, and you hope that you get good owners, and when you don't, maybe this is what we see. It's just unfortunate all the way around. I think it's like remnants of a 2-team, which is not great. We saw, RGV was able to do and kind of resurrect themselves, what Loudon was able to do and be super competitive with a young team, kind of as an independent. I think, I think that there's some hope still. There's maybe a little bit of hope left, but with what the blueprint of going independent, being successful, doesn't feel like Las Vegas is following that blueprint.
And this isn't some like really old or this really brand new team that we have seen in the league that struggles to find its footing in year one. Las Vegas is what we would consider to be like one of the old guard of the league right now. They've been around for a while already, and like I've even been to a match at Cashman Field and had a good time. And this is a market that was growing with the Raiders, with the Golden Knights, and most likely the Oakland Athletics going in there. And this just seems like something that Las Vegas, of all cities, should be one that is capitalizing on having a lot of out of town people coming in and just being a successful club as much as they can on the field. I mean, you look back at some of their previous history, and it seems like it still is struggling to find out, what does this team really want to be moving forward, or if they want to be even part of the future or for the next few seasons. So it's going to be an interesting story to follow.
I think something I had mentioned, I think for the USL, it would make so much sense for North Carolina to go up, and then for Las Vegas to self-relegate. I mean, they need more Western Conference teams in oh my gosh, League One, and they need more of those West Coast teams. And I don't know, it's just something that it would make sense, but also I can't help but think that Las Vegas, and the way that they've ran the club to this point, would also do the bare minimum to stay alive there too. And that's not they don't have a money thing. They were literally dropping money out of a helicopter. Like, it's not like they don't have money. It's just they're putting in minimum money because the USL is still not a completely profitable league, if we're being brutally honest. Some clubs are doing it, but it's hard. It's hard to make a profit at the second division. Almost no clubs around Europe do it at the second division. And still, it just feels like until they can prove to me that they're going to put a true investment into the club, then they won't do it at all. I don't know.
Do you know what's the funniest scenario in that kind of hypothetical you played out of North Carolina going up and Las Vegas going down? Tulsa would have to change conferences again.
Can we just create the Tulsa conference? I just want, they'd be like an independent, like Notre Dame. They can pick whoever they want to play. They always make the playoffs, but they just get to pick whoever they want to play the whole time.
I mean, we would have to do it like the honorary St. Louis Tulsa move, because I think St. Louis was in that same boat before. The mantle was passed from St. Louis to Tulsa.
It makes me think of that really classic SpongeBob episode when SpongeBob and Patrick kept jumping off the Flying Dutchman ship, and he just keeps saying "Welcome back," and it's just every conference, every other year, it's just saying, "Hey, Tulsa, welcome back."
Whenever New Orleans comes back, when it comes back, joins the league, because they've said they're joining, but they also, whatever. It's weird to think that Louisiana could be in the Western Conference.
It works for basketball.
Does it?
Memphis is in the West. Nashville's in the West for hockey.
You're asking the wrong person. Anything like east of Arizona is East Coast, so I have no dog in that fight.
Fair
just
enough.
Like for John, anything that's north of New York City is just considered upstate New York.
That's true. All right. Speaking of what Nicholas Murray is going on about in chat about how the power rankings don't matter, but I promise that Orange County is good. Let's talk about that Orange County team with John, whom is not here.
Hello and welcome into the USL Tactics Show, where today I want to talk about Orange County SC, who's won 9 out of their last 10, using a really fluid 4-3-3 shape that is subtly adjusted every time out to make sure that Orange County is taking advantage of what the opposition is giving them. They ran with a pretty basic setup, one of their more traditional looks, against Pittsburgh at Wednesday, and they were able to beat the best team in the East because of it. You're going to see how they build very patiently from the back, dropping their CMs in, and then leveraging Milan Alaski, who gets the touch here, as a very centrally located player as Ryan Dogman, the left back, advances up that left wing. Here you're going to see another patient build, but this one really bears fruit. Time and time again, Orange County isn't just going to lump it upfield. They're going to wait to find a window. They're going to wait to be able to work it into a controlled central midfield play. By the time they find Chata there, the defense is already overcommitted, and Orange County is then able to build with a really great level of control. And again, it's Alaski making that very narrow run to get into a striker's position. There's a reason this is the guy who won the Golden Boot last year. He has a great sense for movement. Now against Charleston, Orange County kept that same shape, but played with a bit more conservatism. You're going to note how deep Dogman gets at left back there, providing much more of a defensive presence against the team that attacks down his wing. Here, Dogman's dropping in, again very low, to get a touch and make sure that Orange County can continue to play with that control. They're not turning over because the left back is varying his position and getting low when he needs to. That's discipline. Late in the game with the lead, you saw some of the defensive aspects of Orange County pop up. Here you're going to see a break completely ended by Kevin Partita, the number 6 in their shape, sliding over. And then it was really just a series of defensive stops after defensive stops down the stretch. What powered that? Really, it's the addition that this team has made. Orange County continues to get stronger week in and week out by adding wingers like Cameron Dunbar and Kevin Langford, who are very quick players who can get back defensively and then shepherd breaks. All in all, Orange County just has a very coherent system, one that again has led them to 9 wins in 10 games and has them as a real threat in the West.
So, Orange County good. And kind of the talk in our chat, if you're a podcast only person, is basically people are like, well, it doesn't count until they do it against blank. I'll be honest, I wasn't sure if I believed until they did it against Pittsburgh. And it's not even just like they squeaked one out against Pittsburgh. Like it was a dominating performance. If you watch the match, like that was Orange County. That was was that 2019, 2020, whatever, all the years run together, Orange County, where it was like defense led. They got their goal. It's kind of a smash and grab, but the defense looked incredible against the Bob Lilly side, which is kind of known for at least getting a draw on the road. They always get a draw on the road, it feels like, at least. And they were able to get a win and also have forced Bob Lilly to give a 45-minute lecture to grown adults yet again, which I think was just always, it's always really funny when Eastern Conference teams play Western Conference teams, and Western Conference teams get to experience Bob Lilly for the first time in his post-match stuff, because Eastern Conference fans are well versed in this, but Western Conference fans have not seen it, and it's hilarious.
I mean, what more can be said with Orange County right now? They're on their best win streak since the 2021 season, when they ended the regular season with 5 wins in a row, and it carried them all the way to a league title that year. That this is the type of Orange County that we were used to seeing, despite their 2022 season that wasn't as ideal. But yeah, I mean, you're looking at their last 3 home matches, and that was all shutout victories, and 2 of them coming up against Eastern Conference teams. Like, I always look at coming from the Eastern Conference to Orange County as one of the hardest road trips you could possibly make, just because Orange County is so well drilled at home that it's just almost impossible to go into that environment and leave with a win if you're an Eastern Conference team. And it's fascinating to see how this team has just really turned it up a notch here in this part of the season, and it's carried them all the way up to 3rd in the Eastern Conference, probably a bit too far off from San Antonio and Sacramento to chase down a top 2 spot, but they look to be a very strong team that could cause havoc for that 2nd seed if they do end up meeting in conference semifinals.
Yeah, I have to echo that. I think that there's I don't want to say concerns. There's 2 things that I think people are waiting for is Orange County to fall off, right? There's still 9 games left to go. Can they keep up this pace? And the counter argument to that would be they did pretty much the same thing on the stretch run to their championship. The clean sheets are something that is really impressive to see. For the last 4 games, only allowing 1 goal is quite impressive. Yes, there might be a counter argument against the Eastern Conference coming to them, but they still have to play the games and they still have to beat them, right? This week is a really tough match, but it's one that I think Orange County fans and general neutrals are really looking forward to see kind of this matchup against 2 really, really hot teams in form with Sacramento and Orange County. And those games always have fireworks. They're always really tough, really physical. Someone's probably going to get a red card kind of games. And so Orange County has people believing. And I to be fair, I think this is the team that everyone kind of expected Orange County to come out of the gate with. And so I think it was kind of a shock that they weren't. And now I think that they're kind of rediscovering that they have really good players. And so it's surprising. I shouldn't say it's surprising. It's not that surprising because Orange County has always been competitive. And when they weren't, I think that was the surprise. And so it's nice to see an old school USL team like Orange County making a good run and having a conversation, being the best team in the West.
And even after this match they have with Sacramento, which, by the way, Orange County did win the reverse fixture of. They won 1-0 at home before they travel up to Sacramento this week. You still have Orange County has to go and play San Antonio twice before the end of the season, but it's a really favorable schedule for them outside of those 3 games just left on their schedule, because after Sacramento, you have Las Vegas, El Paso, and Colorado Springs, 3 in a row for Orange County, which they could very well be leaving that with 9 points.
Moving on real fast, I want to quickly touch on Legion versus Lou City. The real storylines in this one is a young player from League 2 last year, Deben Wigbo, comes in and doesn't get his name on the score sheet, but really ran the game. Several articles written by that one. There you go, Nicholas. There's your free advertisement. Um, but Deben Wigbo really ran the show with a wonderful, basically hockey assist that should have been his assist, to be honest, and then winning a penalty 2-0 Legion in the first half. But the other story here is that Lou City created nothing, and this has been a story for Lou City all year. They've had their defensive issues, but they were kind of being proactive on the attack. Then they shored up their defense, but they still weren't scoring goals. Then they moved to this counterattacking system where it's just anti-Lou City, really, where Lou City loves possession like I love caffeine. Like they just cannot get enough of it. And they are a possessed and pressed team where they just want more and more of the ball. And they move to this counterattacking system where they'll let you have the ball, but then if there's a heavy touch, they'll press it. And it did nothing. And this is about to be a pretty big stretch for Lou City as they have two really big matches this coming up week. And their season could completely fall off the rails if they are not careful.
I mean, Louisville's been shut out 8 times already. 6 of those are occurring away from home this year, and it doesn't remind you of a Louisville team that we're used to seeing. It almost like I'm trying to think of like the English equivalent, that it's almost like you're seeing like an Arsenal who are so consistently good within the league, and that it's just something isn't clicking this year, and it's just not coming together. What was funny with this last stretch from Louisville City was that this 4-match unbeaten run they had before that, it began with a Birmingham Legion loss, and then ended with a Birmingham Legion loss, and they were unbeaten in the 4 matches in between. But like, while I don't think Louisville is going to be at any danger of dropping out of the playoff picture here, they've already kind of lost the driver's seat, if you will, to be hosting an Eastern Conference playoff game, and they could very well be slipping down into a 7 seed if they're not careful. And especially when you have the likes of Oakland and Tampa Bay and San Diego as 3 of their next 4 games, it's not looking like the Louisville we know and love.
All right. Let's go ahead and move on. Let's go ahead and go to Oakland versus Colorado Springs. This one was fun. This one was just a lot of fun. And what we saw in this Oakland versus Colorado Springs game was something we haven't seen really, I guess, too much of out of Oakland, which was allowing a team to score multiple goals on them. The last time we saw them give up multiple goals was against Tampa Bay, which is frankly understandable. And it ended up being a 3-2 shootout. And Oakland can walk away and say maybe they were a little unfortunate, but because I mean, it just felt like everything was in their favor when it came to the run of play, but also this Colorado Springs team, while they aren't what they were in these last 2 years, when they really put on what they're doing with that like 3-4-3 and just really letting it eat out on the wings, they are a really good team.
Yeah, this one as a neutral was a really interesting match to watch, or I should say a neutral and probably a Colorado Springs fan. I do think it highlights a couple things about the West that, every week, that doesn't matter where you are in the standings or how well you've been playing, that you could probably get something out of a game. Tons of space in the wing, lots of exciting play and speed on display. Some pretty nice shot selections, some really nice buildup from Colorado Springs, which was fun to watch. maybe Oakland a little unfortunate, but this is football, right? This is what it's kind of a heartbreaking sport, and Oakland's on the wrong side of it this time. But I think some positives to take from Oakland. They did look aggressive. They did look attacking, which is one of their strengths. And one of the reasons why Oakland is in the driver's seat right now for a home playoff, at least for the first round. With how well they played against San Diego in the recent past, they could very well have a tiebreaker and be one of those teams in the mix for that fourth place. And it would not be surprising the way they've been playing, letting opposing players be unmarked in your box trap. A little bit unfortunate, and credit for Colorado Springs, but a really fun match nonetheless, to kind of highlight two really strong teams and entertaining teams in the West.
What I thought was interesting with this Oakland match is this is their first loss at home this year to a team that's currently in a playoff spot, because you had RGV and, oddly enough, Hartford, of all teams, beating Oakland in Oakland. But yeah, I think what I take away a lot from this game is that Colorado Springs could very well, if a team is sleepwalking into the postseason, could very well cause a problem in that first round matchup for someone. They would currently be going up against Orange County right now if things time out, or if the season ended today. But they could very well be a team that is that kind of sneaky pick to upset someone in the first round of the playoffs this year. And this was a Colorado Springs team who made the conference finals last year, so they definitely know how to get it done once the postseason rolls around. But yeah, a very fun game, and definitely a confidence boosting result for the Switchbacks as they kind of go up against Monterey Bay, Louisville, and San Antonio of their next 3 games. And that's something you definitely need to start kind of building momentum into, especially when you have both Louisville and San Antonio, the 2 USL Cup finalists from last year, visiting Colorado Springs.
All right. Moving on, we are going to go El Paso versus Indy 11. The Mark Lowry derby is back, and you know what? I was pleasantly surprised. Phil probably wasn't, bless him, but this turned into a pretty good game where El Paso scored with both opportunities that they had. They didn't create too much, but it felt like they played well enough to at least get the draw, and Indy just did better. This Indy team is really starting to roll and look like the team that we thought they would be. A lot of players getting their homecoming, or at least a return out west for the first time. And, it ended up being a fun time for Lowry and co. And if you're El Paso, I know they were already asking questions, but I mean, I guess a broader question for this, do we just say, is it time to just call them dead?
I wouldn't go so far as call them dead. I think that they're definitely on that road, but I mean, they're still kind of in their driver's seat to get that 8th spot. They just need to figure something out. And I mean, there's a couple strikes that looked really, really nice for El Paso on that game, but a beautiful dime by Jack Blake, which, not that surprising from him. He's done that in the past. A fluky corner kick from Aiden Quinn that's driven low that kind of finds its way to a player, maybe gets a friendly bounce. And this is what happens, I guess, when things aren't going well, is you have kind of that bad luck in a game that maybe you should get something out of. But good on Indy 11. They're it looks like they're turning a corner and really trying to and really putting some things together, right? 3 straight wins. And I know that this game had some emotional connection to it, but Indy's looking pretty nice. The guys that they brought in to assist and to set up goals are doing their job, and so El Paso just maybe a little bit unfortunate in who they're running into from time to time. But I wouldn't call them dead yet because they're still in that mix, right? They're not Vegas. Monterey Bay's not been doing well. New Mexico's looking better, but still aren't putting together wins. And so as long as those teams are scuffling as well, and Phoenix again maybe in a similar situation, I wouldn't count them out yet, but they're definitely teetering on the edge, ready to go off that cliff.
I think what's benefited El Paso all this time is that through all of it, they were still in a playoff spot. And even now, they are still in the playoffs. And that's always just kind of been the one thing that the team has just been able to point to, that Claire Howard has been able to say. It's like, well, we're still in the playoffs. We can still kind of turn things around. But like, this just seemed like one of those results that you could either read so much into it that it's just the peak of everything that's been building to this point for El Paso, that the losing streak, the winless run is just like when you lose to your former manager in this match at home and in the kind of heartbreaking fashion that they did, it's just so challenging to kind of see a path forward. But then you also kind of look at things not just in a vacuum of you have Hartford, Monterey Bay, and Las Vegas of 3 of your next 4 games. And it seems like you got to let them kind of play through these next 4 games. And if you can't pick up points against the teams like your Hartford, Monterey Bay, and Las Vegas's of the league, then you probably look at cutting ties, because after that, it's just not going to get any easier from there. But on the other side, credit to Indy 11, who are now off the back of 3 consecutive wins. They find themselves in a decent enough gap over the playoff line. They are 5 points above the playoff line in the Eastern Conference. And honestly, you could make an argument that once they get past the Memphis game, Indy 11 has one of the easier ends to the end of the season until they play San Antonio on the final game of the year. I mean, after the Memphis game this week, you have Loudoun, Miami, and New Mexico at home, away at these next 3 games. And Indy 11 could really start kind of banking points that carry them into the postseason.
Finally, unless we have time, which we probably won't, we talked last time, real quick about how League One giveth and how League One taketh away, with, Northern Colorado, and how they've just been unlucky. And the League One Grim Reaper has cometh for, Ford Madison, where they lost to 1 Knox, and it felt a little fluky, I guess. And then they lose 4-2 to Tormenta. And there was nothing. I mean, you could say there's nothing fluky. It's not often where you see with a team score with every single shot on target. Maybe you see that with 1 shot, but 4 out of 4 on target going in is just unheard of. And while on one end this says, "Oh boy, is Tormenta starting to figure it out?" I think if you're also Ford Madison, you're kind of saying, "Hey, what's going on here? 2 losses in a row, and they're going out to Fuego," which we'll talk about that match in a little, or we won't actually. But they're a team that's been silently looking like they're putting it together, but there's just a lot of interesting things with this South Georgia team that it feels like they're close to breaking out, and then they don't. Meanwhile, Ford Madison feels like they're on the lip of kind of falling apart a little bit.
I think with this one, what should be taken away from Tormenta is that in their last 9 games, they've had both teams score in that time, and they've scored a combined 44 goals in those last 9. So if you're honestly a just more unqualified betting advice, if you're looking for a bet, do the over 2.5 goals bet for Tormenta for these games, just because it's been wild. I mean, you saw a team that oscillated from 3-2 defeats against both teams from North Carolina recently. Then they pull a 4-2 victory against Ford Madison. And then they had a 4-1 victory a few weeks ago as well. And that kind of turns it back on Ford Madison. Really has a best of times, worst of times kind of run where I mentioned they've conceded 4 goals twice now to Tormenta, but then you also see them get a 2-1 victory over the Kickers in the Derby, and then you get a 1-0 victory over Chattanooga as well. That it's really a kind of just been chaotic league. It's League One so far.
Yeah, this one was an interesting one because I think the first half, both teams were kind of throwing heavyweight punches back and forth. And I think maybe just Tormenta landed a few more than Forward Madison did, and led to a couple of boneheaded mistakes that lead to 2 pretty clear-cut goal opportunities. He said 4 out of 4. Well, when you give the ball away essentially to a really good attacker, it makes it really easy to put the ball on target and to score. So I think, with this one, I think, cleaning up some mental mistakes is what Forward Madison needs to do. And there's still time to figure it out. They're not in a terrible position. And sometimes, these things happen. I guess is the theme of the podcast is sometimes these things happen. And I'm hopeful that Forward Madison can figure it out and kind of get back to where they were. But yeah, some of those mental mistakes were pretty brutal that led directly to goals. And credit for Tormenta for being tenacious and forcing those mistakes and then punishing them on the back end, because we've seen that as well, where teams don't take advantage of those mistakes. This could end up as a 2-2 draw, and Tormenta ruse the opportunities, and Forward Madison goes, that was the close one, but at least we got a point. Tormenta was just too deadly in the box with their opportunities.
I think what's interesting to look at the League One table right now, you see both Northern Colorado and Forward Madison currently even on 36 points. Northern Colorado having a bit more of a blip in their season than you're seeing Forward Madison at the moment. But these were both teams that we had assumed would be among the top 3 teams in the league right now, alongside North Carolina. And to see them kind of just tumble down the league table as your North Carolina, Union, Omaha, and Charlotte Independent in front of them, and kind of separate themselves as a gap has just been really fascinating to watch over the next few weeks. And especially when you get your Knoxville and Tormenta kind of nipping at the heels of the playoff spots alongside Greenville Triumph with these teams, that it would not be unheard of to see a Northern Colorado or Forward Madison possibly just not make the playoffs, as we've seen that the 40 point mark has kind of been that magic number to stay in the Premier League and make the playoffs in League One as of late, that it's starting to kind of get to a very nervous end for some of these teams.
I want to just real fast talk Detroit City, Las Vegas, just real quickly, just to say, you talk about devastating mistakes. The goal that was scored, LOL. That's all I have to say about that. And also, if you want to rewatch this match, I highly recommend just watch left back Devin Amu-Mensah. I understand it's against Las Vegas, but also it's one of the best fullback performances I've seen all year. I highly recommend watching it if you love good fullback play, because Devin Amu-Mensah was incredible, and I felt like it would be just messed up if I didn't mention it. But unless anybody else has anything they wanted to say about that, let's go ahead to predict quickly some matches. First up, we are going to go down to Bluff City, where Lowry and co. continue their hot run of form against a Memphis team who has sputtered, figured it out, then sort of sputtered and figured it out again. Memphis versus Indy. Alan.
I went with Memphis for some reason. I have no recollection of my thought process, maybe because I'm not fully sold on Indy being consistent yet, and I'm maybe a little bit sold on 901 finding themselves against Indy 11, knowing that it's a big matchup for both teams. So I went with 901.
I backed Indy 11 with this one. I thought what was really telling is that you're seeing a Memphis team who, despite their recent win streak of 2 in a row, they're coming back from a very long road trip, And it's been a while since they've been back at home, and even longer. You have to go back to June 24th to find the last time that they won a match at home. And they're kind of just recent home games. They had the 4-0 defeat to San Antonio and the 3-4 defeat to Orange County, that I think it's going to take them a little bit to just find their footing again before they have 2 more road games after this, that I think Indy 11 has just enough to take advantage of it, that I'm backing Mark Lowry's boys to get a 4th win in a row.
I don't know how to quantify it or if I have stats, but I'm gonna be honest. It feels like Mark Lowry is always up for a revenge game, and Memphis won the last matchup between the two. And I just think that this is going to be a situation where the Indy boys come out hot because Mark has them ready to run through a wall. I'm taking Indy. Going on forward, we have San Antonio versus Pittsburgh. Lily Ball makes its way down to San Antonio, and boy, if you're a neutral, these can be 2 of the most quote unquote unattractive ways to play football, but also they are some of the most entertaining. This could end up just being the pony derby, to be honest, because there's no one that loves watching 2 defenses just slog it out more than Pony did. So there's that. Alan?
Yeah, I think if this is in Pittsburgh, I would have gone a different way, with Highmark being, such a difficult place to play this season, apparently. But I really believe in what San Antonio is doing. I think they have enough offensive firepower to really get it over. They have a positive 23 goal differential. And so I think this is just a slightly different San Antonio team that we've seen in the past, where they could score some goals. And so I went with San Antonio. Sorry, San Antonio fans.
What really stuck out to me with this is just the difference in records for Pittsburgh. I mean, we've mentioned that Highmark Stadium is just a fortress to go into and try and get a result from, but this is a Pittsburgh Riverhounds team who only has 3 wins away from home last year, and they're going to the Western Conference affiliate of, or equivalent of going into a Highmark. When you see a San Antonio team who only has 1 defeat at home all season, I think you have to take the defending champions in this one, and that's why I'm backing San Antonio to get a result against Bob Lilly's Pittsburgh Riverhounds.
Maybe Ryan could find it for me, but when's the last time San Antonio has been shut out in 2 straight games? Because it just doesn't happen. And so I'm willing to bet San Antonio gets at least 1. And if they get 1 at home, they're almost always going to get 2. And with watching how this Pittsburgh team has played, I don't know if they can get 2 goals on the road right now, at least not at San Antonio.
To answer your question, April 8th and April 15th of this year, San Antonio had a 0-0 draw with Sacramento and then the 1-0 defeat to Louisville away. But yeah, it's rare that they get shut out 2 in a row and that they lose both of those.
Yeah, so I am going to take San Antonio. Again, it's at home. If it was in Pittsburgh, different conversation, but San Antonio doesn't go multiple games without scoring. And it feels like when they do score, they do it in bunches. So yeah, I'm taking San Antonio.
Take the under on goals. Take the under on goals.
Take the under on goals always. We have Louisville, whom we talked about needs to get a win, and Oakland, who feels like they kind of need to get on track. These are 2 teams that you would kind of think are in opposite places in the standings. Louisville going down, and Oakland is firmly staying right there in the middle of the pack and fighting for that home playoff spot. Who we got?
I think they bounce back from their loss against Colorado Springs. Oakland does. They've been playing pretty well as of late, although maybe not against the best opponents, but they did beat Charleston 1-0. And so I'm going to go and say that Oakland wins this one.
I just think with Louisville, it's just something different when you see them playing at home. I mean, you have at least unbeaten in their last 3, but the last time that you had a team go into Lynn Family Stadium and shut out Louisville City was Pittsburgh on July 12th. I think it's going to be a more high-scoring game that I just have to back Louisville City to get the job done at home and just start to try and turn around this form before they have a tough 2-game road trip against Colorado Springs and Tampa Bay.
Look, I understand that Louisville just had a couple of games where they scored multiple goals. I totally get that. But, you see 2 goals against RGV. Sorry, RGV fans, but that back line is not exactly a fortress. They scored 3 goals against Tulsa. Not exactly a all USL, kind of back line. They get 2 goals against Indy, but that was when Indy was kind of sputtering. Louisville doesn't have multiple goals in them, and let's just be real. A team struggling to score goals having to go against Paul Blanchette this year does not go down well. I think it could get really ugly at Lynn Family Stadium in this one. Not necessarily a blowout, but be on the let's just see how hot that seat could get in Louisville. I'm taking Oakland. And was this my lock? No, I did not lock this one. Never mind. Ignore me. Let's go ahead and go to probably the match of the weekend, which is Sacramento versus Orange County in the Indomitables Den out in Sacramento versus Orange County, who is the hottest team in the league, whom you have heard all about during the show.
Yeah, this is just a fun matchup in the history of the Western Conference. It looks like Sacramento's won 7, Orange County's won 8, and they've drawn 4. These two teams tend not to like each other. They're, like I said, very physical, very intense games. And I am going to go with Orange County on this one. Yeah, I think Orange County continues their hot run and takes it to Sacramento. I think it's going to be I shouldn't say take it to Sacramento. I think it'll be a back and forth game. And Orange County just defending really well, but Milanowski coming through with a nice goal to cap it. Maybe one of Nick Murray's last 15 minutes of the game goal on this one. So I'm picking Orange County.
Well, Orange County's been on a fantastic run. I just cannot get past the fact that Sacramento has just been just one of the class teams of not just the Western Conference, but of the league this year. If you just look at the goal differential compared to these two teams, you have a plus 24 on Sacramento compared to a plus 2 from Orange County. Sacramento playing at home this year, another team that's only lost 1 game at home all season, and that was against Monterey Bay. I just think Republic has the stronger side with them, that I think it'll be a very intense match for both teams, but I've actually locked Sacramento Republic to beat Orange County this week.
I wish I had a better statistical, tactical breakdown for this one, but if Sacramento's at home, I'm taking Sacramento. Like you said, I mean, their 2 losses in the last they've had 3 losses in the last calendar year. 3. One against the Phoenix team where they rotated the entire team. One against the Colorado Rapids in a U.S. Open Cup match. And that one match against Monterey Bay, which they didn't rotate for and is now looking more like a fluke than anything. San Antonio does not lose. Oh my gosh. Sacramento does not lose at home. They just don't. And this is one of those that Orange County may make me eat crow and say maybe you should ride the hot hand. But this is just one of my simple rules. If Sacramento's at home, I take Sacramento. They have not led me astray yet on it. And so I am taking Sacramento, but not as confidently as I normally do. And finally, we go to our League One match of the week. We have Tormenta versus Northern Colorado. Again, we talked about Tormenta and the changes that they have going on. And in that 4-2 win, Cassini didn't even include in that match. So you can't even say that could be a huge blow because one of their best wins all year, they didn't have Cassini around. Meanwhile, Northern Colorado are looking still to fully get back on track. They had a 0-0 to Greenville after a storm came through and they got delayed, which I am asking all League One teams to stop naming themselves after weather events and then be shocked when weather event happens. Like just quit doing that. You're doing it to yourself. And it was a 0-0 draw. I think after it got delayed, everybody knew that was going to happen. And then you have a Tormenta team who seems to be figuring it out. Can Northern Colorado right the ship before it gets weird? Or is Tormenta going to continue their hot run of form?
I went with Northern Colorado just because I was picking them for a while and they were doing well, and then they lost, and then I was like, well, I'm going to stop picking them, and then I just decided to pick them again. Just why not? Weather events are great nicknames. Yeah, it's going to be unfortunate one game this season where the Richmond Kickers have to postpone a game because people just walked into their locker room. We're kicking them a whole bunch. Like, we have wounded players that we need to check out, so we're going to delay the game. I don't really have a great reason why. I think maybe Northern Colorado can refine their form again against Tormenta, although apparently I have a bird that might come in and murder me on the internet at some point, so I'm up for that too.
I mean, as we were talking with the Tormenta Madison recap, I still think this is really at least turnaround fixture for Tormenta. They're going to point to the 3 wins in the last 4 games as a way, 2 wins in the last 3 games as a way to kind of just set them on a course towards a better end to the season. And I think they're going to just kind of ride a win here against Northern Colorado as their way to move back into the playoff line, depending upon what happens with the Greenville Union Omaha game. And I think it's going to be another really high scoring affair that gets Tormenta 3 points.
I need to look at what I wrote. I ended up taking Tormenta, but I think in my initial just ideas, or like when I wrote it down, I even put a question mark beside it because I was like, like, do I believe in this Tormenta team based off last year? I should, but also like this year they haven't given me anything to fully believe in. So I don't know what to make with that. Northern Colorado gave me stuff to believe in, and now they haven't done it. I don't know what to do with this, but I'm taking Tormenta because it feels like they might have found the sauce. I'm not saying that they will score with every single shot they put on target. I would argue that that's not sustainable. Monterey Bay tried their darndest, by God, but they could not sustain. I'm taking Tormenta. I'm not confident in it, but that's fine. Any final USL thoughts for the night? No. All right. So let's go ahead. Final thoughts. Ryan, whom I didn't even notice your amazing tan line.
Yeah, it happens with every other kit that has a V-neck collar that I'm not always a fan of, but yeah, just still doing a bunch of running outside. But I guess for what I'm watching is I'm excited for the premiere of Ahsoka that starts tonight. So looking forward to watching both of those first 2 episodes.
Alan?
Yeah, I went and ruined myself by watching both seasons of Heartstoppers on Netflix, and I didn't realize that was all that there was to watch. Pretty cute show. So that's what I've been kind of watching. And then, back on my sewing journey. I made some socks yesterday, which was super fun. Trying new things and expanding my my hobbies. So that's what I've been up to.
Nice. I have learned that teaching 3-year-olds is a hoot and a holler. And let's see. I had something else that was also kind of funny, but I don't remember what it was. If you can't tell, I have been totally out of it this episode, and some people are saying I can't tell a difference, and that's fine. Totally cool. Be on the lookout still for our USL show kits. Again, 100% of the proceeds. I cannot reiterate that enough. 100% of the proceeds will be going to the Carter Payne Foundation with South Georgia Tormenta. 100% of it. We are not pocketing any of it. And we are partnered with Protagonist, and it's not just what we have with Alan speaking into a deep dark cave at the end of every single episode. It is we are partnered with them, and so be on the lookout for a lot of cross platform stuff between the two. Should be really exciting. We got some stuff in the works on that, so cannot be more excited. And unless anybody has anything else they would like to say or talk about, read all of the USL content, watch all of the USL content. I'm just saying, if you want stuff made about your club, consume all the content. Believe it or not, clicks do drive people to do things because it needs to be worthwhile. So support all your local creators, your local news outlets, and always Nicholas Murray, of course. So thank you all so much. And for the final time of the night, here's Alan.
Thank you for watching another episode of the USL Show.
The USL Show is now proudly part of the Protagonist podcast family. Please go to protagonistsoccer.com to check out more work. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see everyone again next time.